Hi, this is Lee, and this is a video of me painting part of the Thor miniature from Marvel Zombies board game by CMON games. The video is about 45 minutes long. It's just gonna be the original speed. There's no like time lapse on this. It will contain the hammer, the stonebreaker, the helmet, and then one of his armor pieces, the small rounded metal plate, which we will start with. So all the paints I use in this video are from Games Workshop set of base paints plus one layer paint. So the color will be Corax White, Abandon Black, Morphistone Red, Markridge Blue. I think that's all. And then the layer paint was the Temple God Blue. Those are the only paints I used for this in this video. So we shall start with the metal plate on his lower chest. So this is a simulating of metal using non-metallic paints, which is essentially non-metallic metal. I'm not entirely sure if I'm doing a great job on this, but I think it does capture some feature of a metal. So it is a cylinder or cone-shaped metal pieces, and then it has its like feature, which is essentially it's rounded, and then all the highlights are going to be from the middle bit, the toe, to the side area, and then creating a radiating visual effects of the lights, which is what we are trying to simulate here. To do that, you still have to figure out a relatively big highlight and shadow area. So basically, highlight area is the area you want the lights to hit on. So for this character, the character is looking to his right, and then his whole body is trying to lean to his right side, and then the lights will obviously by default hitting him on the face, which is his right side, and then to his chest. So the highlight bit of this specific metal plate will be on the upper left. I'm not entirely sure if that makes sense, but you should probably see on the video already. So the highlight area will be the area which contains more white, and then the shadow area will be the lower bottom, which will contain more blackness. Now I didn't use like pure Corax White for the highlight area. I did adding a little bit of the Temple God Blue, which was probably not a great description. Basically, I put my white paints on the leftover Temple God Blue area, so it's still basically white, but it does contain a little bit of the Temple God Blue value. So I don't use pure white, which you barely use pure color on specific area. There's always gonna be something mixed into it. So I'm still trying to adding highlights. There's multiple layer of highlights, trying to bump the brightness of the specific area. And then the important thing is to keep your brush strokes. Your straight brush strokes from the side to the middle of the cone is going to be representing the different lighting hit on this small object, and then you still have some shadow areas in the highlight area, and then you still have some highlight areas in the shadow area as well. That's basically how lighting works. Lighting works in its own mysterious ways. You barely have like a pure reflected highlights, and you barely have a completely dark area as well. But when it comes to the brightest bit, you would just continue to highlight, adding more white, trying to use a relatively dry brush not dry brush, but just keep your brush less watered, so your brush stroke can be visible, can be more visible, and then you would also trying to reshape your lines. If it's a little bit off, it may seem a little bit weird because lines are always straight. You don't really see a curved line on a flat surface of anything. They're always straight. And then just keep adding highlights, and then you would also want some dark color. For example, right here you have some purple in the highlight area, just to representing the difference of highlights and shadows, as lighting reflecting on specific object, especially metal, are always highlight and then shadow area and then highlight area and then shadow area. This always like this, regardless if it's a larger highlight area or a larger shadow area, or small highlight area or small shadow area. It's always highlight shadow, so you do want to make some difference. And then moving on to the Stonebreaker. I think I spent a lot longer time on Stonebreaker because I initially was trying to just paint a clean X, relatively easy metallic simulating. So starting from the I believe it's called the toe part of the X, so basically the top of the blade. The top of the blade will always be a highlight area because it's the tiny tip, is gonna reflect a lot lighting. And then to the blade bit, not the whole blade bit, but most time you'd see people paint the middle part of the blade to a highlight area, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, as long as it's following highlight shadow, it doesn't really matter where you want the exact highlight area to be. So for here, it's in a upper bit. So the toe is highlight, and then following by a small shadow area, and then a large highlight area on the blade, and then shadow area on the lower part of the blade, and then highlights on the heel part, or is that what they call the lower part of the blade is? Heel, I think so. Anyway, the same concept. You would want to keep some brush strokes to creating a visually rich detail on the surface. You see some, it will give you some nice texture, but obviously if you want paint a very smooth metal, you should not leave some brush strokes. But just for this, I think, and a small part of brush strokes will help the visual effect. Then the cheek of the X are always at a darker color than the blade part, because blade reflects most of the light, and then the cheek area, which is essentially a flat surface, it doesn't have the angle of the blade, so it doesn't really hit much light, and then it will be just a darker area. I was going to just stop there, but then I saw, why don't I check Big Child Creative's official artwork, and then they did so much more on this metallic simulating. I think I was still pushing the highlight bit here, so you were trying to still smooth out the light and shadow, but meantime you keep your brush strokes nice and clean, organized brush strokes. You don't want a messy brush strokes unless it was intended to create some kind of other texture. But you still want your color in a nice gradient to show a natural highlights and shadows in a small paint job. It's just a time-consuming job. It's trying to organize your brushstrokes, trying to highlight your highlight, and then keep your shadow area like darker, and then also it contains a nice gradient to the highlight area. If trying to make a smooth transfer of the color. I was going to just probably leave it like that, but then I was looking at Big Child Creative's official paint job. They did a lot on the cheek part of the X as well, so this is going to be what I am going to do now. Essentially, the extended highlights from the blade bit to the cheek part, which it makes sense. It makes sense because they don't want the cheek part of the X be too flat and then less colored, less variance, and then less detailed. So they extend the highlights from the blade to the cheek, and then by using a lot small brush strokes to adding the texture of the the surface of the cheek, and then also contains a nice color gradient from the highlight to the dark area, and then to the highlight area, and then to the dark area again. So from here it will be just long, tedious, time-consuming, repeatable work. I'm just trying to keep the brushstroke organized, and then adding shadows in between, and then again another layer of highlight, and again organize your shadow area. It's just time-consuming work. I'll shut up here and then let you, well, hopefully enjoy this tedious work.
'Cause you're all I ever wanted and more. Please don't go. You're the only one that I had adored. Please don't go. 'Cause you're all I ever wanted and more. Please don't go. You're the only one that I had adored. Please don't go. 'Cause you're all I ever wanted and more. Please don't go. You're the only one that I had adored.
Right, I think that's more or less it. I'm trying to enhance the shadow area underneath the X so it can bump up the whole value of the color of the X even more, so it'll be more visible to people who are looking at this mini. And then moving on to the helmet, which is relatively easier than the X because the whole shape, the structure is less flat, and then all you need to do is edge highlighting, and then I'll probably just do the job. It's not like a very it's not the selling point of this whole miniature. The first thing you look at the miniature would probably be Thor himself, then the hammer, and then to the base, and then you found the Stonebreaker on the floor, which is probably it, and you'll see there's Hammond as well. So but it's an interesting bonus detail, but it's definitely not the whole selling point, and you would not want the helmet become the selling point because you would want people look at the X, the Stonebreaker. So it'll be just some simple brushwork, and then you stepping a little bit on the top again to keep your brushstroke there, to adding some details, some texture, and then to make it look less flat. But again, the whole structure is 3D enough, so even like this, you can see that the whole shape of this helmet, and then a lot of details, and then especially on the the side of the wings, if you just highlight more on that tip bit of the wing shaped, I don't know what the area is, but essentially you just keep highlighting that wing part of the helmet, and then it'll give you a strong visual effect of a metal helmet is down there. And then of course, because the way this miniature is posed, it is not that easy to paint the other side of the helmet, but just few lines to suggest that this highlights on the side of the helmet will do. Like it's probably just down here, and that took me about less than 2 minutes probably. And then I'm still trying to exaggerate the contrast of the stonebreaker. So the surrounding and the stonebreaker, I want to differentiate them so people see more of the stonebreaker rather than the environment, the rocks, some dust texture. So I essentially darken the surroundings to bump up the whole stonebreaker. Right, I am moving on to using the dry brush for the environment lighting. So using Temple Blue and just a stand-up layer paints. This is not dry brush paints. I don't feel necessary to use dry brush paints to do dry brushing. All you need to do is keep your brush dry and then keep your paints less watered, which means get rid of the actual water in the brush and then make it dry brush and then just dry brush on your miniature. That's basically how dry brush works. Then just keep dry brush from the side. This again follows all my previous environment lighting tick. Then also using stand-up brush to adding some strong lighting, because dry brush only give you a rough sketch of how light and shadow works, and then if there's a specific area it's hit by the lighting like directly, you will need to just to enhance that, exaggerate that by using stand-up brush just to paint the whole area. And then you may also adding a little white or other color to enhance the contrast or saturation of the specific color. And then there are certain areas you may or may not reach through your dry brush. You also use stand-up brush just to fix that. So for example here, I'm also adding some Temple Blue to the lower part of the metal plates on his chest, because that's where the environment lighting is set. So it's from the left bottom and then to the top. So the environment lighting will hit the lower part of the metal plates on his chest, and it will also hit the lower part of the cape. It will also hit the lower part of his arm. It will also hit a lot areas you may or may not reach by your dry brush. Alright, I was thinking if I should use some green stuff to fix the hammer, because I feel the hammer is a little bit too, well, less Mjolnir rather than a flat small hammer. I don't know, I feel like they casted this in PVC material kind of shrink the axe, not axe, the hammer a little bit, but I didn't fix that I just couldn't be bothered to apply green stuff and then wait another day or two, just wait the green stuff to be fully dried and then I can paint. I just paint directly. So I just covered the whole axe with not pure white. It also contains a little bit Temple Blue, and then do some edge highlighting. I did this in my Marvel United Thor. So the hammer I painted contains a small lightning strokes on the surface of the hammer and shows this is a hammer of the God of Thunder, and then it summons thunder lightning, which I found that interesting, rather than just make the hammer shine as a lighting object. I feel like that a small lighting in the middle of the hammer would be more interesting. So to do that, you would need a clean background, a nice gradient on the surface of the axe, and then also framed. You want to some strong edge highlighting and to just frame this small area like a small painting. The detail of this hammer is not the best, to be honest, and it also has some weird scratches. I'm not entirely sure if that's on the sculpture or it was just a, I don't know, a 4D production. But anyway, highlights on the edge. So edge highlighting always help you to bump the structure of this object, and then helps you understand the whole shape of it. Again, the detail on this axe is not axe on this hammer is not best, so you just kind of have to deal with it. And then adding some highlights on the surface, and then on the top bit, on the lower part, so it will be a lining from the top to the bottom, and then gives a nice clean brick in the middle. And I'm using some purple as shadows to control the surrounding of the lining, to enhance the brightness of the lighting, again like what I did with the surrounding of the Stonebreaker. So basically darken the surrounding area to exaggerate the brightness of what I would like to show there. So for this example, it's the trace of lining I'd like to show, and then you just keep trying to adding some lines, trying to make this part looks more like lining. The shape of the lining is very interesting. It's like a Z-shaped shape, and then you just can't be patient with this kind of freehand. I'm not entirely sure if this qualifies as freehand. It's basically just simple shapes. So here I'm just trying to reshape the top bit, so you can see that it's pointing out. It has its sharp edges, and then it's reaching the middle of the axe, and then the other one is extended from the bottom and then to the middle, so like the two lining is trying to join into one, but then also has a clear break in between, as a suggestion that this is a shape of lining. I'm still trying to get the sharp break in the middle, which I'm adding a lot of black to enhance the contrast of this whole image. But it was just again tedious job. I think I skipped part of this. It was taking like longer than I thought, and then I wasn't be able to get it done like fully under the camera, because if you can tell, the brush is constantly hitting the camera, so it was kind of in the way. But yeah, that's more or less the idea. And then keep adding some shadows by using non-black but darker color, and then also because of the surface of this hammer is less flat, it contains some weird scratches, so it's not like the best surface you'd like to paint on. But anyway, I think I managed it, and I think the result was pretty good. It is still pretty good from my current point of view. For the top of the axe, and then the back, not axe, why I keep saying axe, the top bit of the hammer, and then the back side of the hammer is just some rough highlights, just some random brush strokes, following the same angle though. You don't want like weird stippling on top of the hammer. It is a flat rectangular shaped thing, you want the highlights. You want the highlights in a organized way, and same as the backside as well. Not entirely sure if I'm showing the backside of it. Here I'm still trying to reshape the lightning a little bit. I want some like clear angle, clear turn at this bit, at this area, so be a nice turn to the top, and then give us a nice angle to reach the upper lining. I'm close, but not that close. I just need a little bit more work on. Still trying to reshape the side of it. Almost there, almost there. And then trying to highlight the other areas I missed, like this side, and then back side as well. Just some random sketch lines on the back side, and then more edge highlighting, some stapling but also follow the same angle, and then some strong highlight lines and edge highlighting, and then adding a little bit highlights just on the outer side of this lining image. So the only darker bit is the area that next to the lining. That's just to enhance the brightness of the lining, but then you also keep the highlights on the outer area next to the edge highlighting bit. You keep those highlighted, and then also some highlighting on the cape just next to the hammer. That's more or less it. I think I still added some like color gradient. Some edge highlighting on the handle bit. But yeah, that's more or less it. That's the hammer, the stonebreaker, the helmet, and then one piece of the metal armor on Thor's body. Yeah, that's more or less it. More highlighting on the backside of the rocks. It just wasn't I wasn't dry brushed enough, and then just to add some details to bump up the whole structure of this rock a little bit. All those small rocks on the floor, and then on the side of this giant rock. Yeah, just some random dry brush. I'm still trying to highlight the lining, trying to make it even more bright. I think I wasn't really satisfied with the shape. I wanted to be more, clear, sharp, very angled. And again, trying to render out the surroundings by adding more black, trying to make the lighting sharper. use some purple to add more color variants. See, it's a little bit too dark just next to the lower part of the lining. Adding a little bit Temple God blue to render out the surroundings, make it a nice gradient at the background rather than just dark gray. Tedious work, time-consuming job. As you can see, it's getting actually worse. Then I think I gave up. I think I did some adjustments off the camera. I'm pretty sure I did, if I remember correctly, but I'm not sure. This was actually a few weeks ago, so I'm not entirely sure if I actually finished all those in front of camera or I did a bit adjustment off the camera. I'm trying to see it from the different angle, see if the idea actually works. Yeah, I was definitely not satisfied with the shape of the lightning I had. See if I actually did something of the work. Should there be a showcase at the very end? Oops. I'm trying to reshape the upper bit of the lining, and then just oof. Somehow got it worse, and then it's tedious work. Tedious work. I think I'm about to give up. Yeah. Alright, so that's what I end up with. As then you can tell the shape of the lining is some kind improved, and then the surrounding is darker, and then the outer area next to the edge is highlighted as well, so you can see the lining clearly from different angle. And then as a suggestion that this is Mjolnir, the hammer that contains the power of Thor, God of Thunder. And then backside, not much. I didn't do much on the cape. It's mainly just the plain Morphstone red slapped on, and then some darker area contains the mixture of the Morphstone red and then Abandoned black. The whole focus point is probably still, the face, and then the chest armor, and then to the floor, the helmet, the Stonebreaker, and then follow the blue lighting to his left hand, the Mjolnir. Right, thank you for watching, and hopefully this helps. Should have something new soon, maybe. I'll see you next video then.